and people are asking for advice or saying, they want to do this or they want to do that or whatever the case may be, but they're nervous to do it. And I tell them, like, you don't know what's on the other side of that, like that fear.
Talk about your first speech.
Oh, man.
Tell about it. Just make it quick.
Man. God, that was horrible. All right, so, oh, man, it was horrible. That was the worst experience of my life. So, long story short, I'm going to make it real quick. But I was always that introverted person.
Yeah.
Like I said.
Exactly.
That.
You
so
were
that's
just
the
coming
perfect,
out.
Yeah, that's the perfect
you were dealing
thing.
with the change coming out.
Yeah, and just even just speaking in front of people, just like a small group of people, like let alone being on stage, and like I never did. So I was the person in class that would like, when you had to go around the room and like raise your hand and introduce yourself. Like I'll be like, hey, can I go to the bathroom before we had to do that? Because I just didn't want to talk in front of. I just hated it. I don't know why. Just introverted person. And so I went to this this event called the Extreme Entrepreneurship Tour, and it was basically they bring top entrepreneurs under the age of 30 and bring them to different high schools and colleges and speak about success and whatever it is. So 2011 I went, and this was like right after we were working with like Chris Brown and doing the projects with Justin Bieber and like all the celebrities and doing all that stuff. And so we had a lot of stuff in our portfolio or whatever. And so I went to the tour and I met this the crazy speaker. The host was EJ.
Yeah.
And he was just all over the place. And I remember like he was so comfortable with speaking and on stage and like being able to just be himself in front of like 300-400 people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang. I remember before I even introduced myself, I was like, man, I wish I could do that. But I said, I'll never be able to do that. I'm too scared. Like I would never be able, I would never go up there and do that. But I wish I could. I remember telling myself, like, I wish I could do that, but I was just I can't. That's not me. So anyways, after the event, I went and I introduced myself to EJ and I gave him one of our brochures. And then we ended up, he had the next event. So that was at Chabot College in Hayward. And then he had another speech, another tour event in Alameda the next day. So I went again. And so I was just talking to him and I was just like, hey man, can you, I want to do this. Can you teach me how to speak? Like I would like to do that because not even just on the tour, I just want to be able to just do that in life.
Yeah.
And so he was like, yeah, man, I got you. EJ bouncing around and stuff. And so we stayed in contact and on Facebook and we messaged each other back and forth. He kind of seen what we were doing. We did the full project with Chris Brown by then and like doing a whole bunch of stuff. And so he sent me a message one day and he was like, hey dude, I think you'll be perfect for the tour. Would you want to come speak? And I was like, hell no. Like I'm cool. Right? But in the back of my mind, I was like that little, that little voice?
Yeah.
The small one, the little tiny whisper that was like, do it.
Yep.
But then the other thing was yelling, hell no, you can't do this. What are you thinking, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, I can't do this, right? So it took me a while to respond to him. And so my mentor at the time, and one of my friends, I was like, I put myself, I was actually eating with Arlette and we were out to lunch and I got the email saying that, they invited me to 5 tour events. 5. I'm like, can I get past the first one? And there were 5 back to back to back.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't going to say anything at first and we were eating and I was like, hey, look, this, and I just forced myself to say it. Like I just forced myself to tell her and I read the email and she was like, you need to do it. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then the next phone call, I called Chris, my mentor, and I was like, Chris, and then I just told him, right? And he was like, all right, you're going to do it. And the reason why I told them is because I knew if I left it up to myself, I wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do it. So long story short, we practiced. I'm like excited. The first one's at UC Santa Barbara. I'm not excited. I'm nervous as hell. I ain't gonna lie.
Dang, I didn't know it was there.
It was at UC Santa, bruh, it was like the dopest stage and everything, right? So I'm like, actually in this conference room, we were sitting here and like going over it with Chris and just like practicing, doing like all the slides and everything like that. And I'm nervous as hell, man. I'm like, I'm a bomb. Like I can't do it. And so, friends were like, you could do it, blah, blah, blah. And then they made me like do it in front of like Chris and like it was like 4 or 5 people.
Uh-huh.
And it was just like I was just like like trying to talk and I just couldn't talk.
Yeah.
Like and they were just like, dude, just chill, just relax.
Uh-huh.
All you're doing is talking about your story, your entrepreneurship like journey and stuff. So I made this dope video, like this dope intro video. I'm like, all right, when we go on stage, the lights are gonna cut off. This video is gonna cut on. We got all the celebrities on there, and then I'm gonna pop up on stage and I'm about to kill it, right? So we put everything together, man, and we go to Santa Barbara. I drive out there. My mentor drives out there, and we're getting ready. And I'm like in the hotel the day before, and I'm just like nervous as hell. I'm like, bro, I'm not gonna do it. Like I was just telling him, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I was in there by myself. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna have to tell him I got sick or I ate some bad sushi or something. And so my mentor texted me and he was like, it was the night before or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I'm headed up there now, blah, 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 whatever. So the next morning rolls around and I get dressed and I'm like, I'm trying to like take my time and it seemed like time was like, I'm like, usually time be going slow, the time was going quick. And so I'm like, I'm sitting up here like, man, I'm definitely not gonna do this. And so Chris texts me, he was like, hey, I'm outside. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just like, I'm so nervous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I practice my slides, but I'm like, I'm nervous and I'm like, I'm shaking, my palms are sweating, like for real. And so we pull up to the venue and it was supposed to be like 100 people there. And 100 people was like at capacity. Man, they were like, it's like 175 people. So it was like 75 over capacity. So everybody was sitting, like people were sitting in the aisles and like, I'm like, oh my God. And so the news was there and they came out, they like interviewed me and I was like hella nervous and stumbling and stuff. And so they had like a backstage, right? And so I'm back there getting ready. EJ's doing his thing. And so he goes to introduce me and he was like, this next speaker, blah, 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 working with all the A-list celebrities and this, and this, came all the way from the Bay Area and blah, blah, blah. And like hype me up, like sound hella good. I'm like, who is this about to come out here speak? And so he's like, give it up for Devin Lars. And then they hit the lights and it went all black. And then the video comes on and the music, like, it was dope, right? It was like a dope intro. And it was like a really nice like auditorium.
Yeah.
And so, boy, they hit them lights on and I had to come out, man. I was like, I was shaking. I got the mic from EJ and I'm like this, shaking. And I'm over here like, hello? And I was like, that was the first time I heard myself speak. And everybody just sitting there looking at me, right? And I'm like, oh, damn. I'm like, I was like, what the hell did I get myself into, right? So I'm sitting up there nervous as hell. And I'm like shaking and pacing back and forth on the stage. And I was like, yeah, so I started a business and I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I was turning back and like looking at the slides and trying to read it. And then I'm just bombing, right? And then like the mic was going in and out because I was like trying to talk. My hand was shaking. My mouth was all dry. When you get cotton mouth and you try to talk and it's just all white right here. So I'm like trying to wipe my mouth. I'm like, damn, did I bring some water? I need some water. And so I'm just like on here, just like, man, it seemed like I was up there for like an hour. I'm like, I'm only on the second slide, bro. I'm like, bro, this is gonna be a long night. And so I'm talking and I'm just like, I just know I'm just horrible. I just see EJ in the crowd kind of just looking. And then I'm like scanning the crowd, trying to find somebody that's interested. So to try to like get that energy back. And then I mess around and look at my mentor. And this fool is just sitting in the audience, just looking so disgusted and shaking his head at me. Just like he was just disgusted at what I was doing while I was talking.
Yeah.
I'm on stage talking and he's looking at me like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And shaking his head, not smiling, not nothing. God. And so it just made me even more nervous. So I'm just like it's just going down. It's just going downhill. And then I like rushed through it was supposed to be up there for 30 minutes. I think I was up there for like 15 minutes. I was just like, forget this. I'm getting on stage. I was about to drop the mic and just walk off. It was bad.
Yeah.
And so I finished it or whatever. And, people clapped. And then I went and it was like a little like green room. And I was just in there and I was like, I'm not going out there. I'll wait till everybody leaves. I am not going out there, right? So I called my mom and I was like, Mom, hey, I bombed. And she was like, oh, what happened? I was like, I'm not going out there. I'm serious. I'm not. And so the event goes over, and I'm sitting in there, and I was like debating. I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm just not going out there. And so finally,
Oh,
whatever, I'm
man.
like, all right, let me just go, man. I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. And so I go out there, and it was like the weirdest thing. Like the students were like coming up to me and like wanting to take pictures and like talking to me and saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, that was the most inspiring thing." They was lying for sure.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Yeah, there was this, and this." And so I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I was like getting a little confidence, and then
Yeah.
I'm like looking through the crowd, and I see my mentor over there just still stone cold face, just looking at me, shaking his head. And so I'm talking to the kids, and then after they leave, it's only me, EJ, and Chris left. And so
Yeah.
me and EJ really didn't know each other that good.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I know, man. And then EJ was like, no, it was good. It was good. And Chris, boy, looked at him and gave him the death stare, like, why are you lying to this dude?
Yeah.
Right? And so EJ leaves, and me and my mentor are walking back to the car, and dead serious, like stone cold face, not no smirk, not no laugh, not no this is funny. He looked at me dead in my eyes and said, hey, if you ever do that again, don't introduce me as your mentor. And I'm like, like looking at him, like, is he joking? like it was a joke, like, am I gonna laugh? And he was dead. He didn't crack a smile, nothing. I was like, damn. I was like, I know I did bad, but sheesh. And so, I get back to the hotel, and I'm just like head in the pillows. I'm like, this is horrible.
Yeah.
And then they recorded it. Matter of fact, I want to see if they had that recorded.
Uh-huh.
But I remember I couldn't even watch it in the hotel by myself. I'm like, oh, I just kept closing up. Like, that was horrible, right?
Yeah.
And so that was like change, like to 1,000 degrees.